The excruciating loneliness you feel right now isn't a punishment, it's a furnace. The moment you woke up, society marked you for psychological slaughter. If you dare to uncover the terrifying truth waiting at the end of this video, your suffering will transform into absolute unstoppable power. Recall that exact excruciating moment, the night you lay completely drained, staring into the suffocating void of your bedroom ceiling, while a thought as cold and sharp as a butcher's blade sliced through your mind. I will die if I keep living like this. That was the rupture, the violent, irreversible tearing between the docile, socially engineered puppet you were instructed to be and the terrifying, magnificent unknown of who you could actually become. You decided to wake up, but waking up is a bloody process. It requires tearing away the flesh of your old self, a metamorphosis so painful that most would rather sleepwalk into their graves. Before we delve into the abyss of this psychological slaughter and resurrection myth, Eryndor warmly welcomes you to our sanctuary of truth. If this resonates with the quiet, dangerous rebellion echoing in your chest, hit that subscribe button right now. Support the channel so we have the fire to continue forging these weapons of the mind for you in the future. You began the rebellion quietly at first. You started reading ancient texts and consuming knowledge they couldn't possibly understand. You punished your body with iron to forge an unbreakable mind. You killed off the meaningless Friday nights, the shallow, drunken laughter, and ruthlessly cut ties with the energy vampires you once called friends. You naively thought that as you climbed toward greatness, as you purified your existence, the world would stand and applaud. Instead, reality delivered a brutal, bone-crushing strike. The world despises your ascent. Suddenly, the people you loved most looked at you as if you were a diseased animal. They mocked the books in your hands. They ridiculed your relentless discipline and your dietary asceticism. They branded you an extremist, an arrogant outcast, spitting the worst accusation they could muster to guilt-trip you. You've changed, you're losing who you are. Why? Why does self-improvement trigger such venom? Welcome to the first, most unforgiving reality of Friedrich Nietzsche's philosophy, the collision with the herd. Nietzsche didn't use the term the herd as a mere insult. He diagnosed it as humanity's tragic psychological default state. The herd is a collective organism terrified of heights, seeking the warm, suffocating blanket of conformity. They worship comfort, abhor risk, and hold a deep, venomous hatred for anyone who dares to shatter their illusion of adequacy. Their ultimate idol is the last man, a sickeningly bland creature whose only life goal is to eat, sleep, be entertained, and blink idly while whispering, "We have invented happiness." They want a flat world completely devoid of mountains or abysses. And the moment you stood up, you became a mountain. Your mere existence as a striving individual became a relentless mirror reflecting their own profound cowardice and intellectual laziness. They do not hate you because you are doing something wrong. They are furious because you have the audacity to do what is right, exposing the terrifying truth that they could too, but are simply too afraid. To protect their fragile egos from this psychological threat, they deploy an invisible, highly toxic weapon, slave morality. It is a brilliant, sickening inversion of nature. The herd takes their pathetic weakness and renames it humility. They dress up their lack of ambition in the noble robes of contentment. Their paralyzing fear of action becomes patience, and as they look up at your undeniable confidence, your fierce ambition, and your iron discipline, they label it arrogance, selfishness, and cruelty. Slave morality was meticulously designed to drag exceptional spirits back down into the collective mud, ensuring no one ever has to feel terrible about their own mediocrity. Once you pierce through the veil of this psychological warfare, a profoundly liberating truth emerges. The suffocating social isolation you are enduring right now is not a warning sign that you have lost your way. It is the absolute highest proof of your success. The whispers and mockery of the crowd are in fact standing ovations for your evolution. Being exiled from the herd is not a punishment or a banishment. It is your graduation. It is the first brutal, non-negotiable tax you must pay to buy back the deed to your own mind. You cannot hold on to the comforting warmth of blending into the crowd and simultaneously possess the terrifying greatness of being yourself. Choose one and let the other burn forever. As the comforting ashes of your former conformity scatter into the wind, you step naked and shivering into the chilling, uncharted territory of your own solitude. The immediate aftermath of abandoning the herd is not a triumphant parade. It is a deafening, terrifying silence. For the first time in your life, the incessant, numbing noise of societal expectations has been muted, and you are left completely alone with the most dangerous creature you will ever encounter yourself. This isolation is not a void. It is a furnace. Without the distractions of mindless socializing and the validation of mediocre peers, your deepest insecurities, traumas, and suppressed desires rise to the surface, demanding to be reckoned with. You are standing at the very edge of the abyss, experiencing the profound vertigo of total accountability. There is no one left to blame for your failures, no one to coddle your excuses, and no pre-packaged morality to tell you what to do next. It is here, in this agonizing crucible of loneliness, that you first encounter the raw, pulsating force that Friedrich Nietzsche called the will to power. The herd misunderstands the will to power as a tyrant's desire to subjugate others, but you now know the truth. It is something infinitely more profound and intimate. The will to power is the fundamental burning drive of all living things, not merely to survive, but to expand, to overcome, and to assert their ultimate potential upon reality. It is the uncompromising demand of the soul to conquer its own lower nature. In the silence of your isolation, this will awakens like a starved beast. You realize that true power is never about dominating the weak men and women around you. It is the ruthless, daily execution of your own inner coward, your own laziness, and your own propensity to settle. Every time you drag yourself out of bed when your bones ache, every time you force your mind to digest complex truths instead of cheap entertainment, and every time you choose agonizing discipline over immediate gratification, you are exercising this magnificent power. You are no longer a passive vessel being filled with the world's garbage. You have become the sculptor and the stone. The chisel is sharp, and the blows you strike against your own psyche are excruciating. But with every piece of weakness that falls away, a stronger, more resilient architecture is revealed beneath. The isolation which once felt like a punishment transforms into a sacred laboratory. You learn to guard your solitude fiercely, recognizing it as the only environment sterile enough to forge a sovereign mind. The will to power demands that you stop asking the universe for an easier life and instead demand of yourself the strength to endure a terrifyingly difficult one. You are building an empire within your own skull, a fortress of iron will that the outside world can neither penetrate nor corrupt. Master of your own internal chaos, you now lift the hammer to shatter the external pillars of morality that have kept humanity on its knees for millennia. You look back at the society that exiled you and suddenly see it with devastating clarity. You see their religions, their political ideologies, and their cultural dogmas not as divine truths, but as ancient rusted cages designed to domesticate the human spirit. Nietzsche declared, "God is dead," but this was not a triumphant atheist's sneer. It was a profound warning of an impending psychological catastrophe. He meant that the ultimate objective source of meaning that society had relied upon to make sense of the universe had collapsed under the weight of human enlightenment. The herd, terrified of the gaping void left behind, frantically created new gods to worship the state science, mindless consumerism, and the desperate pursuit of collective equality. They traded the religious altar for the digital screen, but their subservience remained exactly the same. You refuse to kneel before these new hollow idols. This brings you to the most dangerous and exhilarating phase of your metamorphosis, the transvaluation of all values. You recognize that the concepts of good and evil you were spoon-fed since childhood were not laws of physics. They were subjective scripts written by men long dead, designed to maintain order and protect the weak from the strong. To truly be free, you must become an active nihilist. You must intentionally burn the entire library of societal morality to the ground. You must unlearn everything you were told about what makes a person virtuous, successful, or righteous. The slate must be wiped completely clean, leaving a terrifying blank canvas. This is the moment most people break. The freedom of having no universal purpose is simply too heavy for the fragile shoulders of the average person. But for you, it is the ultimate liberation. You realize that if the universe has no inherent meaning, you possess the terrifying, godlike authority to create your own. You become the sole architect of your own virtue. You decide that weakness, pity, and stagnation are your new evils. You decide that strength, relentless curiosity, courage, and self-mastery are your new definitions of holy. You stop seeking permission from the crowd to live out your desires, realizing that the highest moral good is the full, unapologetic realization of your own unique potential. You are no longer navigating by the dim, flickering stars of societal tradition. You have ripped open your own chest, pulled out your burning heart, and used it to light your own way forward through the darkness. To bear the crushing weight of this newly forged, self-authored universe, you must undergo a brutal psychological alchemy, transforming the agonizing tragedy of existence into a profound, intoxicating joy. The path of self-mastery is not a gentle ascent into the clouds. It is a blood-stained march through a valley of thorns. You will fail. You will be betrayed. You will experience heartbreak so profound it threatens to shatter the very fortress you have spent years building. The herd's reaction to this inevitable suffering is to curse the heavens, to drown their pain in chemical numbness, and to play the eternal victim. They want a savior. They want an apology from the universe. But you have evolved past the pathetic comfort of victimhood. You must adopt the ultimate, most demanding philosophical stance ever conceived, amor fati, the absolute love of your fate. Nietzsche challenges you with a thought experiment that is designed to crack your soul wide open. Imagine a demon creeps into your loneliest loneliness and whispers that the exact life you are living now, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more. Every pain, every unutterable sorrow, every joy, and every microscopic detail will return to you in the exact same sequence for all eternity. Would you throw yourself down and gnash your teeth, or have you experienced a moment of such transcendent power that you would look the demon in the eye and call him a god? To embrace amor fati is to look back at every trauma, every rejection, and every moment of suffocating despair in your past, and refuse to wish a single second of it away. You realize that your greatness is entirely dependent on the resistance you have faced. The tragedy was the anvil, the betrayals were the hammer, and the pain was the fire. You do not merely tolerate the suffering of your existence, You fiercely desire it. You crave the friction because you know that without it the blade of your spirit grows dull. When disaster strikes you, do not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" You ask, "What magnificent weapon is the universe forcing me to forge right now?" This is the alchemy that makes you truly invincible. When a man learns to love the fire that is burning him alive, he can no longer be destroyed by anything. You stand in the rain, battered and scarred, looking up at the merciless sky, with a bloody, defiant smile roaring at reality to bring forth its worst, because everything it throws at you will simply be devoured and converted into fuel for your ascent. Forged in the fires of chosen suffering and guided by a self-authored compass, you finally approach the trembling, wind-swept rope stretched across the abyss of existence. You have left the herd far behind, their mocking voices now just a faint, insignificant murmur in the valley below. You have conquered your inner demons, burned the false idols, and learned to love the agonizing friction of your fate. But the journey of self-actualization is not a destination where you simply arrive, sit down, and rest. Nietzsche warned that man is a rope tied between beast and the Übermensch, a rope over an abyss. Humanity is not an end goal, it is a bridge. It is something that must continuously be overcome. The Übermensch, the overman, is not a biological evolution or a comic book superhero. It is the ultimate psychological and spiritual zenith of the human condition. It is the guiding star of your entire existence. The overman is the individual who has completely mastered his passions, who creates his own values out of the void, and who says a wholly resounding yes to life in all its brutal, terrifying beauty. You realize that you may never fully embody the Übermensch in your lifetime, but that is entirely the point. The meaning of your life is found in the relentless upward striving toward that impossible ideal. It is the eternal process of shedding your own skin, dying to your old self, and being reborn stronger, sharper, and more brilliant than you were the day before. As you walk this tightrope, balancing perilously over the dark void of meaninglessness, you no longer feel fear. The vertigo that once paralyzed you in your early isolation has been replaced by an intoxicating sense of absolute freedom. You are a creator, an artist, whose medium is your own existence. Every action you take, every word you speak, and every challenge you conquer is a deliberate stroke of paint on the masterpiece of your life. The world will continue to spin in its mediocre cycles. The herd will continue to sleepwalk through their gray, painless, passionless lives, waiting for a savior that will never come. But you are awake. You are fiercely, violently alive. You have reclaimed the deed to your own soul, paid for in blood, discipline, and tears. Look forward into the terrifying unknown of the horizon, straighten your spine, and take the next step onto the wire. Let the abyss stare into you all it wants. It will only see its own reflection in the eyes of a conqueror. Conclusion. The journey from the suffocating comfort of the herd to the solitary heights of the Übermensch is the ultimate crucible of human existence. It begins with the terrifying embrace of isolation, where the noise of societal expectation falls away, leaving you to confront your own raw potential through the will to power. By recognizing that true supremacy is the conquest of the self, you wield the hammer of active nihilism to shatter the hollow idols of traditional morality, unlearning the scripts of weakness designed to keep humanity docile. In the devastating void left behind, you become the sole architect of your meaning. This monumental responsibility demands the psychological alchemy of of amor fati, the absolute defiant love of your fate. Every trauma, betrayal, and failure is no longer a reason for despair, but the vital friction required to sharpen your spirit. You cease wishing for an easier life and instead cultivate the strength to devour adversity, transforming it into fuel. Ultimately, this path is not about reaching a final restful destination. It is an eternal tightrope walk over the abyss. Humanity is merely a bridge to be surpassed. By continuously shedding your old self, embracing supreme suffering, and forging your own values, you awaken to absolute freedom. You become a masterful creator of your own existence, standing fiercely alive amidst a sleepwalking world, forever ascending toward the impossible, magnificent ideal of the overman. The profound lesson and modern application. The deep lesson: suffering, hardship, and the absence of inherent universal meaning are not existential punishments. They are the raw materials for your ultimate self-creation. The universe owes you no purpose, no comfort, and no salvation. Waiting for external validation or a predetermined destiny is a surrender of your sovereignty. True greatness is born only when you stop playing the victim to your circumstances and assume absolute responsibility for authoring your own values, embracing your pain as the necessary fire for your evolution. How to apply this to your life today? Audit your daily habits and the beliefs you hold. Are they truly yours, or were they installed by a culture of comfort and mediocrity? Start exercising your will to power in small, ruthless acts of self-discipline. Choose the difficult task over the cheap digital distraction. Endure the discomfort of physical training and silence the urge to complain when faced with setbacks. When a crisis strikes, whether a career failure, a heartbreak, or a personal loss, practice amor fati. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" consciously ask, "What magnificent weapon is this pain forcing me to forge?" Reclaim your autonomy by deliberately choosing the difficult, meaningful path over the numb, easy existence of the crowd. Question for the audience and call to action. What is one specific challenge or setback in your life right now that you can choose to embrace and transform into fuel for your own growth? Please politely share your perspective in the comments section below so we can all learn and draw inspiration from each other's journeys. If you found value in this philosophy, please subscribe to the channel. Your support is the ultimate motivation that allows us to continue creating deep, high-quality content for you.